So this is a common problem that you'll find in Algebra 2 courses where they ask you to cube a binomial. And there's good news and bad news. So the good news is that you can do this in a few steps, and it's actually pretty basic stuff as long as you're willing to break it down into multiple steps. The bad news about this is that a lot of students make the following mistake, and it is absolutely wrong. A lot of students assume that this is actually equal to 3x cubed minus 1 cubed. So they assume that I can just sort of distribute the exponent. That is absolutely false. This ignores a lot of products that we'll find out by doing this step by step. So this is wrong. Bad, bad, bad. Instead of doing it this way, you're going to have to expand this out and recognize that the cubed binomial is actually 3 factors of the binomial multiplied together. That's just what cube means. That exponent means how many times the base is being multiplied together. So that is what a cube binomial literally looks like. It's 3 factors of the binomial multiplied together. And what I can do is a series of distributive multiplication steps to multiply 2 of these terms together, and then we'll multiply the product of those times a 3rd factor of the same binomial. So let's get started. First, I'm going to draw a grid so that I can organize my work and not have to think too much. Because if I have to think a lot, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. So I want to make my work as simple as possible. I think that's something we should all try to do. Get more done with less effort. Work smarter, not harder. So I'm just drawing things out. And okay. So here are the 2 terms on one axis, 3x minus 1, and then on the other axis, same 2 terms because I multiply them together. So this grid, this series of products we're going to generate is the equivalent of 2 of these factors together, being multiplied together. So let's get started. I'm going to multiply row times column in this grid, so I get 3x times 3x is 9x squared. Great. And then 3x times negative 1 is negative 3x. For this cell, it's going to be negative 1 times 3x, just row times column, so negative 3x again. And then this cell is going to be negative 1 times negative 1, or just positive 1. So the result of this is going to be 9x squared minus 6x, because I have 2 minus 3x's. So those 2 terms are like terms. They have the same power of x. I can combine them to get negative 6x. And then I have this 1 that doesn't combine with anything, so it's just plus 1. Okay. So that is the result of 2 of these factors multiplied together. I can actually repeat this process and see if I can pull this off. I just need to draw the grid. So we're going to repeat this process by multiplying that product of 2 of the factors together times the 3rd factor. So that's the 3rd factor term, 3x, and that's the other 3rd factor term, minus 1. And we're going to draw a grid again to organize my multiplication steps. Whoops. So here's a grid. It's a 3 by 2 grid. I have 3 terms here, 2 terms here from the 3rd factor, and now I'm going to multiply everything out. So 9x squared times 3x is 27x cubed. 3x times negative 6x, well, it's a negative times a positive, so that's negative, and then it's 6 times 3, it's 18. X times x is x squared. And then 3x times 1 is just 3x. 9x squared times negative 1 is negative 9x squared. Negative 1 times negative 6 is 6x. And then negative 1 times 1 is going to be negative 1. Now I have to combine like terms again. Here we have 27x to the third. That's the only third term. X to the third term. For the x squared terms, there's two of them, minus 9 and minus 18 x squared, so that's going to be minus 27 x squared. For the x terms, I have 6x and 3x, that's, add them together, that's 9x. And then finally, there's just minus 1. Okay, so that's the answer. That's what you get when you multiply out three factors of 3x minus 1. This is not the same thing as just cubing 3x and cubing minus 1. So if I cubed those two things, I would have gotten these two terms. That's 3x when you cube it, and this is minus 1 when you cube it. But I would have missed these two other very important terms. So you won't get the full answer unless you do all the multiplication steps together. And I used a grid to organize it, and you can see where everything came from. This is one factor of 3x minus 1 times the second factor. You get the product. This is the squared 3x minus 1. That's what it looks like when you expand it out. And then you multiply it by a third term of 3x minus 1 to finally get the full answer. And that's all you have to do.